episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. Guest this week is Rob. Rob and I met in a podcast Facebook group. I did his podcast, The Fighter Story. It's on YouTube and it's on anywhere podcasts can be listened to, Apple, Spotify, all of them. And so he did mine this time, and we talked a lot about his drinking use and his how it led to pills, how it led to homelessness, and moving all over the place. We have very similar things in our story. A lot of fun to talk about. Always fun talking to somebody who loves hockey as much as I do. So we had a really fun conversation. Definitely runs over an hour and a half, so it's not one of the shorter ones. So strap in, but it's definitely a nice conversation, and it's not typical sobriety, AA route that you hear about. It's definitely more of like taking the best of all situations, kind of like I do, and just using our shared experiences and podcasts, and that also helps us in sobriety a lot. So I hope this podcast helps me as much as it helps anybody else, and I enjoy doing it as much as anybody enjoys listening to it. So I appreciate all of the support, likes, comments, the follows, the subscriptions, or whatever that you're doing. Patreon is really something that I love doing now too. So if you haven't checked that out, that's where all the exclusives go. Whenever we do an episode, it tries to get edited and uploaded on Patreon as fast as possible. And then they're still going to roll out weekly, on YouTube and everything, but the Patreon is where you see the exclusive first look at the episode. So, again, enjoy this episode. It's another fun one. And, thank you. Welcome to the show, Rob. I appreciate you stepping on.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, what's your sobriety day, man?
Yeah, so mine is May 15th, about 3.5 years ago.
Oh, wait, shit. So yours is right after mine. Mine's April 25th, 2018.
No, sorry. March 15th.
Of 2018?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So still, we're about a month apart. I got arrested about a week after you got sober.
Yeah, so did I actually. So yeah, it's not that far off, yeah.
All right. And what was your main downfall, your drug of choice that was like your favorite?
Yeah, so my drug of choice was easily Percocet, oxys, and then alcohol to kind of accompany that. Alcohol was it was just always there.
Yeah.
Alcohol was never like the thing that I wanted, but it went really well with opiates. And then if I didn't have opiates, it made me forget about the withdrawal, and it just made it the come down so much. I wouldn't say enjoyable because none of it's enjoyable, but I could
tolerable.
Get through the day. Yeah,
tolerable.
I could get through the day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was definitely like whenever because like I couldn't at one point drink anymore on opiates. Like the last 6 months of my 9.5-year run, like I couldn't drink because it literally was hurting my liver to like drink on opiates. Like I quit drinking for 6 months before I got sober because of how bad it was hurting my liver. Because after 9 years, how long did you use them for?
So, opiates?
Yeah, like pills, like oxys.
Yeah. I've never actually done the math, but I'm guessing anywhere from like 6 to 8 years, like straight of not doing anything. And like you were saying, like you couldn't really drink. I was hospitalized twice with pancreatitis. My liver was all, the numbers were everywhere. But I remember walking to the liquor store, throwing up like those dry heaves, and then even getting that first one in, I would throw half of it up and get pissed off, and I'd have to make another one. But I needed it in me because without that, I was going to throw up the pills because I would snort pills. And so there was no way of me being able to get oxys in me. And so to like even everything out, I would get bathroom. I'd have like I'd normally do a vodka Red Bull, like a 50-50 vodka Red Bull, slam that down, and it'd probably be like a half a pint, and that knowing most of that's getting thrown up. And then I could start smoking some kind of weed to calm the stomach, and then the pills would come in, and then I'd be good.
You just reminded me of the craziness. Like people don't understand that didn't do pills, but like the closer you got to doing a pill, the more your stomach would hurt. The more nauseous you got, the closer. And once they get into your hand and you can do them, you are full blown about to vomit everywhere. Like the anticipation of even doing them, like I would have a 2-hour drive sometimes just to pick up. And the closer I got, the more sick I would feel, you know? And I remember one time, like, we would do drive-bys a lot. Like, we would drive by each other on the street and, like, toss a pack of cigarettes out the window to each other. And, like, my pack would have cash and their pack would have a baggie in it, you know? This way, it wasn't like doing a parking lot. We're just driving by on the street. Here you go, and on the way. And I remember one time I pulled over right away because I would always drop mine into a straw, like a full-size straw, right?
Yeah,
And
I remember you told me this.
Yeah, I would bend it in half and drop them in. Well, there was the one time I felt so nauseous that, like, I had, before I even did them, like, because I was about to, and I leaned my head back, and I was like, I felt it, you know what I mean? Because I was so nauseous from being withdrawn that I actually had to open my door and get rid of the bile that was about to come up before I did the pills, because I knew I would throw up immediately as soon as I did them, and I would waste 2. And I didn't want to waste any of the pills. So I would actually purposely have to make myself throw up sometimes before I did them, just out of pure nervousness that I would throw up by doing them. Because of the same thing that you were just saying, like
that poke and choke, man.
Oh man, but it
you gotta puke and rally.
Yeah, and I think that's why I can, like, dry heave and throw up and be like, okay, I'm good to go now again. Like, you know, I don't like burp or anything. So when I drank a lot, like, I haven't burped since I was a baby, no lie, like, haven't. And so when I would drink a lot and you have to, like, relieve that pressure in your stomach, I would have to just pull the trigger, you know, as we call it, you know, pull the trigger, make yourself throw up. Like, I got good in, you know, school making myself throw up in class by sticking my tongue in the back of my throat. And that would make me vomit at my desk, and they would send me home for the day because they would think I was really sick. You know, if you throw up in the classroom, they send you home. So, and if you even start dry heaving, they send you to the bathroom, and you come back, and you're like, oh, I just got sick. And then they send you to the nurse. And as long as you already have your tongue in the back of your throat when you're walking into the nurse's office, they call your mom to go home. So I got really good at that at a young age because I didn't want to be in school. But later in my drinking career, every time I needed to throw up, tongue in the back of the throat. Shit, I just did that last night when I felt so nauseous that I just had to relieve that pressure. And instead of burping, I have to go and just dry heave it out. Shit sucks, dude. And the pancreatitis, like, I still have pancreatitis in sobriety from addiction. My pancreas still goes double the size. I just had it 2 months ago again.
Jesus.
Yeah, like, I have to intermittent fast, like 16 hours off and 8 on because of how bad my pancreas is from 20 years of drinking and 10 years of using. So, like, I just fucked up my pancreas. Like, my gallbladder stopped functioning because of it. That had to be removed. And now my pancreas is all messed up. So we're keeping an eye on it to make sure, you know, there's no, like, getting rid of your pancreas. You know what I mean? Like, having a bad pancreas took out Patrick Swayze, and I'm not that in shape. You know what I mean? That shit makes me nervous. If it can get Patty Swayze, then it can get me.
Yeah. So, that I remember the first time I got that. That was painful. It was like I was hospitalized, I think, for 3 days or something, you know, and like you can't eat or anything, but they at least gave you painkillers. So it wasn't horrible. It's just it's not what you want.
You know why it's 3 days? They do 3 days because you need to fast for the first 3 days at their pancreatitis to reset your pancreas again. And that's why I do intermittent fasting, so that I have less of a chance of my pancreas doubling in size because I'm constantly fasting now.
Oh, that's cool.
You know what I mean? But it still happens because I still, like, I fuck up when I don't fast right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in my office sometimes 12 hours a day, so I forget when I ate, and I'm just eating a snack or something, and it just fucks up. And But so when did you start, you know, drinking?
I think. Well, I mean, like, the first time I ever drank, it was like my mom's boyfriend gave me a Zima. You know, like, that dude was a piece of shit. Like, we ended up. Like, I've gone to jail over that dude when I was, like, 15, trying to, like, kill him. Like, he was really a piece of shit. But, like, I think it was, like, 9 or 10. He like handed me a Zima, and I don't even know if Zimas are still a thing anymore,
I don't think they are.
but it's it pretty much should be the equivalent of like a White Claw now. Like it's
Yeah,
pretty much it was like an unflavored White Claw. It was
yeah,
just like these Topo Chicos, but like they had alcohol in them.
and not a lot of
And
alcohol either.
yeah, no. And it was weird because like he was all his friends were like these biker guys, and that's what he wanted was, to be this biker dude. And I got a fucking Zima. But and then the second time it was like, my buddy's dad had like a cool or a fridge down in the basement, and we'd have sleepovers. And so like I ganked like a couple of those before I went home. They sat in my backpack and I tried them in like this park, instantly spit it out, wanted to go home and get some Kool-Aid. And then I think I tried one more time. I haven't even told her this, but my mom had a bottle of wine that my aunt brought back from France. And I just wanted to know what it was, like I had no idea, so I think I took a screw and a hammer to try to like get the cork out. Like it took like an hour or something. I was 12 or like 10. I don't know. I didn't have Google. There was nothing. I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm
Yeah.
like hacking away, like trying to get this thing out. I think I used like a pasta strainer at one point to try to get all like the chunks out. And I finally got it open and got it into this glass, and I tried to drink it and it tasted like shit. And I was just like, yeah, it's like throw it away. And it was like a super expensive bottle that literally got murdered just to get dumped down a drain.
That cork
Yeah,
alone was more expensive than any bottle you probably ever bought on your own.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then after that, it was just kind of like I played hockey growing up, but I also
What
had
position?
left D. I've still to this day, I don't know why it's like a natural thing. I have a really hard slap shot. So I can,
Are you opposite left as in like, and sometimes they put right-handers in the left D. Are
yep,
you what is that
yeah,
you? Yeah, you're a
yeah,
righty
yeah, yeah.
shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just my favorite angle.
Because I was
Especially,
lefty in the right slot on defense. We would have been partners. We would have been
oh
pairs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I was
I
a
like
lefty
that
in the
high
right D.
glove, the
Yeah.
high glove spot, that bar down. I liked it.
Yep.
But yeah, and then like I didn't actually start drinking until like high school. It was like I wasn't really in high school that much.
Well, you're playing
My
hockey in Michigan.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
yeah, and in high school, that's like you might as well be traveling,
Well,
right?
yeah, I was
Yeah,
traveling, and so I wasn't really in high school that much
that's what
because
I
I
mean.
was playing. Yeah, I was playing outside, and then also I would have like days to where I'd have like broken nose or like a black eye or something. It had nothing to do with hockey, but it was like the fights and I'd be in at home, and I just never wanted to address it. It was like I'm doing my own thing, and I always felt like this outsider type person because all my friends lived in like subdivisions, had both parents at home. Like their idea of going out for the weekend is like taking the boat out.
Yeah.
To whereas I was the poor kid that got invited to come, and like they knew I wasn't going to have any money. So it was like this weird thing. But like in high school, I became the guy that could get shit no one else could get. So like
And
all
you were aggressive too, because if you're playing defense in hockey and going through all that at home, like anybody that knows hockey players know that more aggressive ones are the defensemen because
yeah.
you get to clean up shit in the slot.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to hit people more. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Wingers are more people that are more elusive. Centers are more like people that are going to lead the charge. But defensemen, you're there to hit people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was I never fit in, with like a lot of people around me because like for me, I'd go to hockey practice and then I'd come home and then I'd fight a 45-year-old man, and like have to clean the blood off before like my mom owned a daycare and I would literally have a fight in the backyard. I'd have to clean everything off so the parents didn't know about it as they're coming to pick their kids up. And so
Uh,
that was my normal. So for me to like have a group of people, it wasn't something that I had. And so I think it was like 15 or something. People wanted to start drinking and partying, like in my social circle, but no one knew where to get it. I was already, you know, talking to adults at that time and hanging out with 21-year-olds, just because those were the people that I could closely relate to. Anything that had to do with school, I didn't really care about that. And so I could pick up beer and show up to a party, and that was like I was the guy. Like I was the popular one that was able to do it in my head.
Yeah.
Obviously I was the loser that they just used to get the alcohol, but in my head, like I contributed for once. They needed to pay me, and then I
Yep.
like to do it, and that's when I
Runner's
learned the
fee.
yeah. But like that's where the entrepreneurial part started.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely be the guy to get like Friday, Saturdays, everybody's calling, see what I can get. And that's where alcohol became like a weekly type thing. I just never understood how people would be like, I'm drunk, and they had a six pack, and then they would just stop drinking. That part to me it never made sense. I was always the last one to go to bed, cleaning up other people's shit. Not by cleaning up, but like you're not gonna leave a bottle half full around me. Like
Yeah. I'm
that's
gonna clean
three
it up as
boots.
I'm gonna finish it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. It wasn't like you were cleaning up with a broom and a vacuum. You were cleaning up as in, what is this half a bottle doing here? I'll just
Yeah.
chug
Oh,
this.
yeah. No, I was one of the worst drunks too. Like, especially in like my high school and college days, to where I would go to your house as a party, and I would get drunk, but think it'd be funny to like go into the bathroom and piss on stuff. So not just like the toilet, but I would just like start flinging around
Yeah.
just because I was a drunk asshole. Like
Yeah.
I had that arrogance to me that everybody hated, but in my eyes, that was like what everybody wanted.
Yep.
Yeah, it was stupid.
What happened when you were 15 with your stepdad?
So he's actually not my stepdad. He was just my mom's boyfriend. And he already had kids. He had kids of his own, so it was just kind of like I was the kid that he showed up to the relationship and never wanted. So we would just get in fights. I mean, like little small arguments and stuff, but it eventually turned into like full blown, like when I was 8 years old, I'd get fucked up, and not just like a little bit, but it would be pretty bad. And so when I got older, I like started swinging back, like
Yeah.
you get like so scared and violent and all this rage that you don't know what to do. So everybody goes for that overhand right, and I remember it hit once and it stumbled him, and like it shook me. I didn't know what to do, and so I got my ass beat. Um, but like, I started taking all like these little pieces, and then like I got older one time, and I was around 15 or 16. He actually had my mom left him, and he had tapped our phone lines. And so I had to go to court for this guy because he had tapped our phone lines. I was talking to like my girlfriend, and at 14 or 15, like
Yeah.
that's not something. That's fucked up. And so we had to go to court for that whole thing. I remember coming home one time and he was there, and he started some shit with me. And so I was like, all right, yeah, this is done. Like you don't need to be on this planet anymore. And so I reached into like a drawer and I grabbed like a steak knife, and like I was gonna stab him. Like I wanted to hit him in the neck. My mom was right there, so she grabbed the blade of the knife, like the actual steel, like the serrated part. And so I let go of that, grabbed another one, and at that time he had gone into the garage, shut the door, called the cops, and I'm outside the door like kicking it, like, oh, now you want to run, and it just that kind of gave me the out that I needed of like now I'm doing things on my own, and that took off into like my drinking career, which never you don't have a successful drinking career, but
Yeah, you're the second So I talked to somebody who did actually follow through with what you wanted to do. When he was
yeah.
19, I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and it was a long hour and 41. This dude was 19, and he was at a party, and he had heard rumors about his one friend that was like hitting on all these girls and doing this inappropriate shit and like touching them when they wasn't supposed to and all that, and he had heard it happened again, like overheard it, and he was like, "Fuck this, it's on. Like I'm taking matters in my own hands and taking care of this." Grabbed a knife, walked over to him, and stabbed him twice in the throat.
Like straight up stabbed. And he's like, I don't remember it. Apparently, like I was pacing back and forth. I was blacked out. I was so drunk and I was on acid. I don't remember. I was disassociating. Like when the cops told me what I did, I didn't believe them. Like when we were
Yeah.
sitting in the interrogation office, I didn't know it. And he did 7.5 years. For the first 3 months, he didn't know if he was going to do 7 years or 25, depending on if the guy lived or died, because he was on life support for 3 months. And the
Jesus.
guy pulled through, so he got 7.5 years. And he ended up becoming like an artist in prison, because I was like, how did you survive prison for 7 years at 19 as a skinny white boy? You know what I mean? Like straight up, like
Yeah.
how did you like?
Yeah.
And he was like, I got into doing like oil, like he ended up making like portraiture people and would sell them to everybody, so everyone would get like portraits of themselves with their family and send them back home, so no one wanted to hurt him. He even got into like coffee can art, like he used
Hmm.
instant coffee and was making some of the most ridiculous portraits I've ever seen, like the most realistic things. Let me see if I can find it, because I know that you're into that kind of weird shit too. Coffee artist, but this is just look at this fucking De Niro, dude.
Oh shit.
That's with coffee. That's with instant coffee in his jail cell. Yeah, yeah.
Damn.
He hasn't done art though since he got out of jail. He's tried
Yeah.
twice and he can't get back into it. He said. So like he was like that was like survival for me, and now like when I think of it, like it makes me think of that shit, and I can't do it. I'm like, damn, dude, that
Yeah.
sucks, because like obviously you were talented as fuck at it. He's like, yeah, but it helped me survive. But anyway, yeah. So if that makes you feel any better, you could have easily did 7.5 for
Yeah.
attempted murder that your mom saved you
Yeah.
from, because
Yeah.
they
No,
definitely
the
would have tried
what
you as an adult.
oh for sure, yeah. No, what happened to me, I ended up going to the cops showed up. I remember him because he had like a scar like in this area. And like this tall bald guy, and he was like he pulled me up front, asked me what happened, like asked him what happened, pulled my mom aside and kind of asked her what happened, and then he came out and like it was my mom's boyfriend and I were both out there, and so he was like, all right, cool, so let's go over the story. And his story was is that I hit him first, and the cop was like, fucking stepsons never know the rules. And I got thrown into the back of a cop car as soon as like it was put out there that I swung first. I clearly hadn't even like gotten to hit him at that point, but we had gotten into a fight earlier in the week. He had a black eye from me hitting him, and so it was just this whole thing. So I got to spend, I think it was the weekend, like a Friday to a Monday type thing, and it was in like a Maurice Spear campus, like a juvenile campus type thing, to where it was just a holding cell. And I remember just throwing my sock in the air, acting like Chris Osgood. Literally for like the entire weekend, I had nothing else to do. I didn't know how long I was going to be there. There was no judge. There wasn't anything. It was just, here you go. This is what you get. And I didn't even know what I had done wrong,
Yeah,
because like in my head, I had been getting in fights so many times. I had the cops call so many times from like broken bones, that like for me to want to like just body this guy, it didn't really matter. Like why am I getting in trouble? And so it threw off this like
yeah,
instantly. I just stopped trusting cops, as we all do, like. And so from that point on, it was like, all right, cool. Now I got this thing. I got people that want me around. I'm just gonna go do that.
yeah,
And I never paid attention to actually going to college or do anything else. I just wanted to do the party side. So I slowly stopped playing hockey. I remember the first season I didn't sign up, and it was weird. Like all my friends were, like they'd call the house and I just wouldn't be there. And it was like this weird transition to where I went straight party mode. Everybody in my hometown left for school. I had no idea what was going on, so I got a job. And then a girl that I had always wanted came back and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this thing called college." So I was like, "All right, I'll do that too." And so I ended up going to school, um, so I could go to college to party pretty much.
Yeah.
I legitimately remember looking up a fraternity to see what fraternities were on campus because that's all that I knew about school. I didn't know you could learn stuff. I just figured that got in the way of partying. And so I ended up going to Northern Michigan after doing like some community college stuff because I just got a GED and went up there, and it is winter 10 out of 12 months there. And
Is it up in
it's
UP?
yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it's right on the lake too. So it's freezing, and but we were known for drinking and hockey, and so it fell in, and I was in one of the fraternities, and we had uh we had a trophy. So every Sunday we'd have these meetings, and it was like drunk of the week was this trophy, and it was a toilet seat, and I held that bitch for an entire year. You know, every week it was like a goal of mine because I knew I was barely making grades. If I was cheating. I knew I was going to get kicked out. Um, but I was the guy that would be, up every night of the week looking for a party.
Is Marquette up there?
Yeah,
Or you? Oh, okay.
that's where Northern is. Yeah, it's in Marquette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking. Oh, am I thinking of Marquette, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where that school is, where like Chris Farley went.
Yes. Yeah, that's in Madison.
Madison, Wisconsin. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Yep. Oh, okay. It's one of those weird things where like you. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. I get it now. Whenever I hear Marquette, I think of the blue and yellow, jacket that he would wear in Tommy Boy.
Yeah. I think it's like University of Marquette, but it's in Madison. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't really.
Either way, that's my ADD. That just distracted me for a second. Anyway, so it's cold as shit in Marquette, and all you have to do is drink.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, but yeah. So just try to like keep going on that thought. I never graduated from Northern. I drank myself out of school, and like they can give you like this probationary period type thing. But at that point, I had literally, I ran out of options. Like I couldn't stay in the dorms anymore. I was living in a basement of a party house to where we had tarps put up with like clothesline string and a mattress on the floor. And then we had like a shitty old coffee table in the middle and a TV stand. And that was like my bedroom, But like I was okay with it because I had a place of my own. And that's like during parties, people would move the tarp to come into my room, to smoke weed.
Yeah.
And so I always justified it being okay. I knew I needed a change, so I ended up moving to Hawaii. I literally scraped together like whatever the plane ticket cost, found a roommate on online somewhere, like Craigslist, and literally just moved out there. I went to a community college or signed up for a community college with the no intentions of actually going to school. But I just wanted to keep the party going in a different city. So I kept doing that until I remember like I stole some dude's wallet and his bag of weed. Tried to hook up with his girlfriend. That didn't work out, so I left. I woke up in a park somewhere, like covered in sweat because it's Hawaii and it was sunny out, and I was in this truck and didn't really know how I got there, but just kind of like went back home and started getting all these texts, of like, you fucked up. What did you do? Where are you? That type of thing. So I did the pussy move, and I decided it was time for me to leave the island. I never tried to look for a job. I wasn't in school. I was getting drunk every night and smoking weed, but there was nothing for me there. So I came back to Michigan and ended up on working a job on Mackinac Island, which is also in the UP, but that island, there's no cars. So there's literally nothing. Yeah, if you Google it, like the first thing that pops up is from horse and carriage. There's 0 cars on this island.
What's it
except
called?
for like an ambulance. Mackinac Island.
Mackinac.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's known for like fudge and no vehicles except for like one ambulance and a fire truck. And so it's basically an alcoholic's dreamland. You drive a bicycle everywhere.
Yeah.
So I bartended there, and that's when this dude introduced me to Coke. So for the first time, like, I didn't do drugs. I barely smoked weed. Like I drank a lot, but anything beyond that, I was afraid. And so I told him no for about an hour. and then and then we ended up I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Went and we went up to like these random woods, tried it, got back on my bike, instantly thought I was a NASCAR driver, like that I was going 100 miles an hour, the best mood of my life, like cool, let's go. And by the end of the night, I was doing this thing, like the right palm up, left palm down, trying to figure out which one was my right hand based on my thumbs.
Yeah, you're doing that move.
Yeah, because I had done so much coke and drank so much, I didn't really know what was going on. But yeah, so I knew coke was never going to be my thing because it was expensive, and I liked sleeping too much. So it was like after that summer when I got home, my mom actually had one of those barrels of Percocets, the big pill bottles.
Yep.
And I had tweaked something. And so she was like, well, hey, I got a bottle of these up there if you need any. And so I tried, I think, like 2 of them, got a little fucked up off of them. And then I remembered snorting coke. So I went through a process of trying to figure out how much I could snort, like how to actually do it. Because when I didn't have anybody showing me how to do this stuff, there's not like a drug guru until, I mean, there is, but those people.
We didn't know about that stuff either, back like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we barely knew how to Google and use Craigslist into that, like the mid 2000s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Let alone pill crushers or, like what kills you. Like I had no idea if like snorting something was like heroin, like I was a dumb drunk kid.
Yeah.
So
what year was it?
I figured it out 15.
Okay.
Somewhere around. Yeah, maybe no. 10.
2010. That
Yeah,
makes
something,
more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, somewhere around there. Because I'm 36. I should have graduated in 80 or in 03.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
we're roughly
the
same age because I'll be 35 next month. So we're like the same.
Yeah.
So, and we were using around the same time. So I remember, like, I would imagine if she had a big ass bottle like that, it would have been 5s or 10s inside, like perk 5s or perk 10s. The
5 over 325s.
Oh yeah. We called them bananas.
Yeah. See, ours were the circular ones, and they were scored right down the middle.
Oh,
and
okay.
So yeah.
It all depends on the manufacturer. It's over who you know what I mean? Like I've gotten blood pressure medicine from this. It actually triggered me a little bit. Like I got blood pressure medicine from, I think it was Walmart, and I had the little V on it. That was exactly the V that was on all the 30s. Not all the 30s, but that one brand specifically. Because it was made by the same company. They just happened to make blood pressure medicine too, obviously, not just, hard drugs. And I was just looking at it like, oh, I don't know if I want to even take this because, like, this company makes me break out. It was the only, I like the M30s and the A215s, or the K9s, but the Vs always made my face all blotchy and break out. Every single time I did a V cut, I broke out in hives.
You could get those in a hydrocodone. That V was on a hydrocodone too. I remember that.
Yep. So you did some perks, and then it was. Did you know right away that you loved it?
Yeah. Because at that point, like I didn't have friends.
Yeah.
I had people I drank with.
Yep.
And so that became my closest relationship. There was plenty of them there, and I found out people would pay for them. So it'd be nothing for me to like, my mom would end up extremely short, like half a bottle short. But she knew she was giving them to me, and she didn't know that they were worth money. So I'd sell some to friends so that way I had money for booze and then wait for unemployment to come in, constantly taking hers, So that was like this weird summer to where all I did, or this weird off season, because I had found a way to work for like 4 to 6 months, whatever it is, on the island, and then most people get unemployment for the rest of the year. So I
Gotcha.
would do that and just get fucked up and like drive around and visit friends.
Hmm.
Uh, what I didn't know is that I was actually getting addicted to all this shit. I mean, like you feel like it's not going to happen to you and you'll know to stop it, but I didn't know. So I went to Mackinac Island the next summer, and that first night it felt like that ride to where the floor comes out and then you just fall, but only like my bowels. You know what I mean? It was just
Oh, I
like
know what you mean.
everything needed to get the fuck out. And so I didn't know I was detoxing. I just thought I had gotten the flu from eating food in a different place. And so I tried to get a bottle of NyQuil so that way I'd at least be able to pass out because I didn't have enough money to get drunk my first night back on the island. I got some NyQuil, and I remember there was no way I was going to make it to the bathroom. And I was in like this dorm setting to where we had a shared bathroom outside of the door to get in my room. And it was the first night there, but there was a mini fridge there. And so I literally had to put that thing on its back, open up the door, and completely detox shit inside this mini fridge, which other people ended up cleaning and using later on, which is pretty fucking gross. But yeah, I never knew I was detoxing, you know. Um, I went to work, everybody thought I was just sick, and I was drinking my ass off to try to get through the night. It eventually calmed down until I found a dealer on the island. And towards the end of my stay, like nothing really crazy happened that summer. It was just the normal using day-to-day shit, trying to survive. I'd make 150 bucks and I would have drank that, by midnight. And then with the pills, that shit was gone quick.
Yeah.
So I
When you found a dealer on the island and you got high again, did you then realize like that's why your stomach, like that's why you felt that? Because I know like the first time I had detox and I didn't know I was detoxing, and when you get high again, you're like, wow, I feel like $1,000,000. What the? Wait, was that
no, I
that?
was no, I no.
No,
Uh
okay, okay.
for some reason I feel like I was better than everybody. That wouldn't happen to me. I was just sick, and there was a decent amount of time in between to where it wasn't like the pills stopped me from detoxing.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, but I did break my arm, and then so that kind of ended my season. I needed surgery. It was on my radial head. And so, but I remember the doctor being like, I can just give you some like pain medicine to help manage it. And, you should be good in a couple weeks or something like that. Because it was like the bone and how it was overlaying that it would eventually just kind of grind itself down to where it wouldn't be a huge issue. Saying that makes me think he was a shitty doctor, but that's what I had. Um, and he was like, or we can do surgery. It's going to be a longer process, going to be more painful, but it'll be better in the long run. So I chose surgery based on knowing I was going to have a prescription coming at the end and that I wasn't going to leave that office without one. And so I literally went through surgery just to get pain medicine. Um, I remember him being like handing me a hydrocodone script, and I was like, "Oh, actually, can I get Percocet instead? Or oxycodone instead? Hydrocodone just doesn't work for me, and it just never got me fucked up. But that was like the first big decision that like altered my physical body based on me needing drugs, which is pretty fucked up to now I have a scar.
I've told a doctor that I was allergic to hydrocodone before, so they would up it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
I've done
oh
that.
yeah, no, I'm actually allergic to that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh
that and
okay then.
tramadol. I've done that
Yeah.
for
Oh, I'm allergic to tramadol if anyone asks, because
yeah.
that
Oh,
shit does not do any. But that's when I had my surgery a couple months ago. I refused the tramadol because I knew that wasn't going to touch my pain anyway. You know what I mean? Like I was like, don't even give me the tramadol. Like they're like, no, take the script. I was like, okay, and I left the script on my bed when I walked out because I was also pissed because that was when they shot me up with fentanyl when I told them not to.
yeah,
So you know what I mean? I knew I was going to be having a rough time as it was. But anyway, so you got the surgery.
yeah. Yeah, so that pretty much just sent me on another run. I never stayed in the same spot, as far as like I moved around quite a bit. I mean, Hawaii was one of them. I didn't want to go back to Mackinac just because I had this reputation of sleeping around. Um, I would, if I didn't have money to drink at the end of my shift, but the cash register did, like that became my money and I would just figure it out the next day. Working in restaurants, there's ways of getting, especially bartending. I just pour my own drinks, but at the same time, I could give you a Bud Light for 350. You hand me a five, say keep the change. I just don't put it in the cash register.
Yeah,
And
you
so
don't even charge them for the beer.
yeah, exactly. So I was doing, dumb little shit like that. Um, yeah, and that led to my first DUI, which was also uh, back in Marquette. I got my first DUI on St. Patrick's Day. Like everybody else, you can't really drive at 2 o'clock in the morning on St. Patrick's Day and not expect to get pulled over in a
Yeah.
college town. But I did. I was an idiot. I've also had this bouts where, like, I knew that I was pretty much into drugs and that it was becoming a problem when I was driving down. I was trying to get to Toledo to a bar that I was working at and trying to crush up a Percocet on top of a CD case at the same time. Kind of like went
I
off the road, hit the gravel, spun, and a semi is coming at me. And the only thing I was pissed about is that all the powder on the CD case was now on the floor. And so it's like, oh, all right, may have to look at this differently, but I mean, I didn't for quite a few years later.
I would always crack the CD case. I would like there was
Yeah.
never a time that I didn't crack the CD case. You know what I mean? Like eventually that's why I started doing that straw trick because I realized that any CD case I grab, I'm going to end up cracking when I crush it on there.
Yeah.
And then you lose it inside the cracks. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole fucking mess. So
Yep.
that's when I started getting innovative with that straw trick because I couldn't do the CD cases anymore because I kept breaking them.
Yeah. I would go to McDonald's or Wendy's because they have those the fold down baby changing stations.
Yep.
And you could get straws right by the soda machine.
And they had
So
the fat straws too.
yeah, the big yellow and white ones. And so I just go in there, grab one of those. I could cut that bitch in half with my teeth if I needed to, because it was too long. Have it ground up with the ID within, like if you gave me a quarter, an ID, and a pen, I'll have a pill cut up into 3 lines in under 30 seconds, and you won't be able to find a granule that's bigger than any other one. It's just dust.
Yep.
And it became my ritual. Like I had no idea what was going on.
I
There
bet
was
you wish you
times,
knew my straw trick then, huh?
yeah. Well, I used pens. So I would take like just a big pen, but I would take the ink out and I'd leave the tip of the pen in. And then that butt that goes on the end, I'd
Yep.
bite that out and I'd fill those pens up with that. So I could always have a loaded pen, pull the top out, and then I could just tap the powder wherever.
Dude, that's crazy because I have my sponsee that did that with meth. He would do that with pen caps and like pens all over,
Yeah.
but he would attach magnets to his pens so he could hide his shit all over his trailer so his girl wouldn't find it. And with the magnet being attached to it, he could literally just throw it across the room and it would land somewhere and magnetize against it and he wouldn't get caught with it. But inside of the pen would be his meth that he would real quick come out and do a bump and then put it back into his pocket or whatever. Or he could
Jesus.
put it into his drawstring of his mesh shorts.
Yeah.
And yeah, he always had like magnets and shit. Yeah, like fucking crazy. Like that's what you reminded me of.
Yeah.
I never heard of anyone doing that until he told me. Then you.
Yeah, you get innovative. It was
Yeah.
fucked up because I wasn't the only one getting innovative because like if I wasn't traveling, I was a bum. Like I would use every cent that I made drinking and ended up staying at my mom's a lot of the times when I wasn't, off on some random bartending excursion.
Was that dude back there? Like when did he leave the picture finally with your
Oh,
mom?
he left like when I was like 15,
But
15,
he was
16.
around since you were like what, 8 or 9, like 7,
Yeah.
8. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's good.
And he's actually the father to both of my brothers. They hate him too. He's not really in their life, and he's deathly afraid of me now. Um, but like, I wasn't the only one being like getting creative because I would steal them from my mom, and she was like, "All right, like this has got to stop." So I started offering her money, and so it was like $3 for a five, and then that became she started selling them to her friends, so she became more tight with them. And so she would literally leave the house for 5 minutes, and I would be able to go through, like, the top drawer underneath the pillow, open up the closet. Instead of like searching coat pockets, I would just take the whole group of clothes and shake them because I could hear the rattle of the pills in a bottle. To this day, it's fucked up. If I see some or hear a pill bottle rattle, it triggers something in my brain. I know what that is. And now I just need to know what it is. I don't want it. Maybe. But like,
No,
you
it's the
know,
curiosity of, for
yeah.
so long, that's how we live, dude. Like, our mind, that's the thing of like, that's why when we get sober, we have to reset our mind and learn how to, be a person again, because our mind is so wrapped up in all of those things for so many years that when we hear little things like that rattle, we're like, oh, I wonder what they got in there.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that you would befriend back in the day to be like, eventually get the conversation going. Like, oh, what's that noise? Oh, do you have something in your pocket? What is
Yeah.
it? Like, fluoxetine, is that Prozac? Why do you got, what I mean? And then like, you know,
Yep.
you always, I was at a funeral 6 months sober for somebody that we got sober together. And I was with my buddy who he has arthritis in his whole body since he was 18. He has, he needs the pills, but
Yeah.
he does go through them, but he needs them. And I knew that if he's not in bed, then he has pills. Usually, like, he's down for the count. But if he has pills, he's out of bed and he's walking around. So we went to the funeral and we're talking and we're hanging out. And I just knew that, like, he's standing a lot tonight. He's got him. He's on him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way he could stand for this long to smoke a cigarette unless he was on him. Because that's just, I know who he is. We got high together for years. And I'm 6 months sober and I'm like, but that's the last thing like I want to do is even ask him.
Yeah.
I did not ask him because I felt like I didn't want him to think, because he knew I was trying to be sober. And he would have said no. He never would have gave him to me. Even if I would have begged, he never would have given me one. Even if I had money, he wouldn't have given me one. I know that. But I didn't want to ask him because I didn't want him to think that I wanted him.
Yeah.
If it was a stranger, I might have. But with him, I didn't want him thinking my mindset was like, I wonder what he's got him. Let me get some of that because I want him to because I'm depressed. So I
Yeah.
didn't want him thinking that it was even like a thing that I wanted to entertain. So I didn't bring it up. But I knew, like, there's no way this dude's out and about right now unless he's on pills. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. It's weird about like the whole getting sober thing. I remember, so I went to rehab,
When did you go to
and
rehab the first time?
I've only gone once.
Dude.
So yeah, so it was May 15th, 18. And the thing with that, the weird part is like I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was so used to bouncing around place to place. Um I had zero trust in anybody. Like I never was like putting needles in my arm. I never like sold my body like a lot of people do, like I had this arrogance to me that I wouldn't even try dog food or heroin, because it it was dirty, and I was better than that. It was if I got a prescription, then like I'm not a junkie, my body needs these. I'm not even an addict. My body just needs these to function. And like I had said that to so many people that I started believing it. It got to a point to where like my brothers, I raised my brothers pretty much. Like my mom was definitely in the picture, but she's gone through a lot of medical conditions, and she had a daycare growing up, so it was kind of like us. And my brother was missing a pair of Beats headphones, and he called me, wanting to know if I knew where they were, and it like made me realize that that's who I was. Like you said, like you saw a guy in a funeral standing up. Like I did that so many times to where, like with my mom, I'd be like, "Oh, hey, do you want to go for a walk?" And then the last half of the block, I would just be like, oh, I feel like running now, just so I could get back to the house before she got home, to go through to try to find her pills. If I knew a buddy had them, I would, and I was at his place, I would come up with some excuse to get him out of the house, even if it didn't make sense, of like, oh, why is there a fight going on down the street? Just to see if he'd leave. So that would give me 2 minutes to check the main spots, like the bathroom cabinets, the top drawer in the bathroom, the top drawer in the bed, like all the main spots, because I knew they were there. I had just ran out of places to do that. I ran out of people to steal from. And now my little brothers, who like looked at me as like this god, like I'm the oldest brother. And so like little brothers look up to their older brother, and when they see that, like, no, I'm nothing more than like a petty thief junkie,
Yep.
like it changes you. So I ended up going to rehab in Ann Arbor, Michigan at Dawn Farms.
Who asked you to go, or did you want to go?
No one. I was sitting around watching what the fuck is that show? It was on Showtime. It's where it's like the whole family, and the dad was the worst one.
Is that Billions?
No. It's like they live in the south side of Chicago, like really shitty poor family.
Shameless.
Yes, yeah. I was watching Shameless.
Okay.
And seeing that dude, like he was like
William H. Macy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the one son, he went to like AA meetings.
So
And
yeah, I love those. I love those episodes when he goes to AA. Lip, when he starts going to AA and he meets that dude and everything. It's like season 7 or 8, I think. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. You're watching that show.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And like there was like this little liquor store up the street from where my mom's place was, and so I'd walk up there every day after stealing money out of my brother's wallet, or change out of her thing. Or she used to collect these bicentennial quarters. I would steal all those. If it didn't matter. Like I was at my aunt and uncle's, and they had a bunch of $2 bills. They meant something to them, but to me it meant a bottle of booze or some pills. So like I ran out of so many places that I never went to rehab to get clean or to get sober. I literally went to rehab for a place to live. Like I was cool, like on Trailer Park Boys. That was another show that I was watching a lot, because I wasn't doing shit except getting drunk in this trailer. And like, if I could just find an abandoned trailer in a junkyard and just go drink there, get fucked up, and if I die, like, whatever, like it doesn't really matter. That's what I was going to be okay doing. And so that's when that show came on. I started watching that, and I actually called a few places in California. I know, like through our conversation on why you went out there, but it was ridiculously expensive. I didn't understand how it could cost so much, and that mistrust thing. Like it took a lot for me to even call a rehab.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like I'm asking for help. Like I might die tonight, and nobody's really responding. So I gave up on it for like a few months, until my mom and I got into this conversation of basically like, I need to get the fuck out. And I was like forcing her to like go get paperwork from court, of like pulling up some bullshit of like, I've lived here for 6 months, so now I have legal rights to live here. Like all this, like trying to grasp at anything to not have to do any work. And so I found a rehab out here, and just decided, I was going to do it, but I didn't really know what it meant. I still think today I don't know exactly what it means, because I mean, like I can think back on like fucked up times of, getting drunk, and like they're not all bad, but like from my perception, what bad isn't always what somebody else's bad is. Like I thought it was fun for me to like steal 2 mopeds, get drunk, and end up in a river, and walk home with muddy clothes on, and wake up with a house covered in mud and a half working moped. To me, that was like a fun college story. But like, there's a lot of law breaking attached to that.
Yeah. Yep.
That, like as you get older, you're like, oh shit. And so yeah, I don't know, going to rehab in itself is a completely, it's a mindset change. I had a big issue with a lot of stuff that they were saying. Um, like I was in rehab with a lot of people that had been IV users, or had been back there 8 to 20 times, whatever it could be. And so I carried that like I'm better than you attitude into rehab. Of like, oh well, at least I haven't done that. I haven't done that, and it led to me getting kicked out of rehab. To where I was then like officially homeless, like nowhere to go. They have transitional housing, and so they're like, if you get all these things done, we'll think about it. And so I got all those things done and got to transitional, um, and kind of like slowly worked up to where I am now.
When you first got out of the transitional housing, like that's what how sober were you?
Yes, so I went to so the rehab program is 90 days. I got kicked out, like 60 days. And the main point of me getting kicked out was just because I started manipulating people. I was bored, and so people became something for me to manipulate, because when you're like people are cycling in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there the longest after like 30 days. So I had
Yeah.
seniority. And so I'd be like, oh, hey, you're supposed to do this. Or we would have to walk downtown to meetings because we were actually required to call people every day to get ride outs for meetings. And then we also had to walk to some meetings. Because for those of you that don't know, Ann Arbor is one of the larger recovery communities. There's easily like 20 some meetings a night just within this 8 mile city. Like there's a lot of meetings.
That's awesome.
And so the rehab that I went to was the focal point of that community. So it was easy to get these ride outs. Um, so yeah, I pretty much just became like the bully of the house. Not really the bully, but like I manipulated everybody. They saw it and they kicked me out. And then I was using the cancer card to try to get into transitional. Because
Did you
I
have
have
cancer?
yeah, so I have a really weird form of cancer right now, which didn't make drinking any better. So I have polycythemia vera. So it's a bone marrow cancer that my blood essentially turns into jelly if I don't get some of it taken out. So with drinking and like using drugs and everything, it got really bad. But that was what I used to make people feel sorry for me to give me drugs. Like, oh, I have cancer. I'm in pain. The doctor doesn't understand, or like I would go to the doctor and they'd pretty much give me whatever they wanted. But 180 Percocets at 5-10 milligrams, those are only lasting about a week.
Not
You
even,
know,
yeah.
yeah, you don't get very far with 180 pills, which you think you would.
The only thing you get far doing is learning how to take like 8 to 10 horse pills at one time, and just that chalk taste that follows behind where you're chugging an entire bottle of water to take it down because it's the grossest thing. It's
Yeah.
like when you leave that pill in, especially the 10s or the 5s, like the big ones, for too long in your tongue while you're searching for a bottle of water, it is one of the most foul tasting things
Oh yeah.
that I want to vomit up every single time.
It's like a metallic chalk
Oh,
taste.
that's it. Yeah, metallic chalk. That's the one. So what
Yeah.
what did it take for you to finally be like on board with what recovery was like? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like
I to this day I'm not. I know that's not like the answer most people want to hear.
well, it's an honest
Um
answer. I want to hear an honest answer, so that's good.
yeah, yeah. So it was weird for me because they would keep saying, trust the process. Like hand your will over to God. All these instances. Like or all these sayings. And for me it was like, all right, cool. It seems to be you only saying these when they affect you in a positive manner. Like I didn't understand how it would affect me. I do now in it makes sense. But the recovery it it's set up from my perspective to fail. Like I feel like so my first night I went to a meeting and I was that guy that sat in the back of the room of like this large church in the basement, you know. I'm all the way in the back by like the tables where the coffee and trash cans are. I don't
Basically a
want to talk.
corner, you right? You would go,
Yeah,
retreat to the corner. That's what
yeah,
I did too the first
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like every newcomer does that. And so like that was like my first time. And then the second time I went to an NA meeting and this guy came and picked me up, gave me a hug. You know, like I still talk to this guy to this day.
And
Amazing guy.
NA or all huggers. If you're an
Uh,
NA, that it's like it's the hug. You know, they shake
yeah.
hands in AA, but NA, it's like no, we're not.
Uh,
It's like Chris Farley, like in Black Sheep, like or Tommy
yeah.
Boy's like we don't shake hands here. We're brothers. We hug. Brothers got
Yeah.
to hug.
Yeah.
That's NA's mentality. Is like
Yeah.
Chris. Is like
And
brothers got to hug.
and it was weird for me because like I didn't like people touching me. Like I had
Yeah.
been in so many fights. Like
But
don't
I think
fucking
that's the
touch me.
point. I think that's the point. NA
Y-
is like, I saw a meme yesterday. It was like Kramer next to like Post Malone. It was like AA versus NA. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's exactly true. It is like the tougher one, but we've also done sometimes tougher shit. AA has a lot of DUIs. NA has a lot of people that, have done some like killing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
harder, crimes. So
Yeah.
I think the hug is that way of like breaking through that tough guy exterior right off the bat as you walk in. Like, hey, drop that, who you were out there, and hug me because you wouldn't have hugged me out there. Now hug me before you walk in here.
Yeah.
I think that's like what NA's thing with the hug is because that is like everywhere I go with NA, it's all about the hug. And I think that has something to do with it drops your guard. If someone's hugging you, you can't be that tough guy you were on the streets anymore.
Yeah. It it helped. It helped out a lot. I mean, like that initial hug. I mean, granted, I still talk to him to this day. He actually sponsored me for quite a while.
Awesome.
My issue with everything is like the terminology. So I know like I've just always had this I'm better than you thing, you know, like I honestly I can't tell you where it comes from, but it's also like what feeds my motivation to do things. That's what fed my motivation to go to rehab is, you know, like I'm not going out like this. I'm not the normal junkie, you know, like watch, I'll show you. And like I'm built different pretty much, which is like it's bullshit, you know, but it's all like added layers that I've just added to myself. And so I would be sitting there hearing people talking about like how drugs are bad as they're smoking cigarettes, chugging coffee. You know, I'm like, all right, so caffeine and nicotine is two most addictive substances on the planet, and you're telling me that those are not drugs, and I don't understand why. Exactly. You know, like, and so it's just like, well, oh, well, you know, it's loose. It's a loose terminology or whatever, and it did not make sense to me. And but I did everything, you know, like a couple months into it, I chaired a meeting. When I got into transitional, I kind of tightened up a little bit. I had to go to a meeting every night. I went to like all these functions and everything, but I just kept looking around and not seeing people progress. You know, I was like, what was the point of you getting clean or getting sober if that's all you're doing is getting sober? You know, like, yeah, you make meetings, like, yeah, you're doing this, but like, it's literally in the literature to like to help others.
Yeah,
You're not
that's
like,
I'm all about the 12.
yeah.
The 12,
So it's
giving
like,
it back.
yeah, I just never understood, you know, like addicts go to, or alcoholics, you go to a meeting, you go to the room. Once you're in that room, you know, like you have a lot of help.
Yeah.
But like going out and actually seeing other people and being honest and vulnerable with like the general population, that was my issue of having all these attached rules and, you know, like everybody that's been to rehab or been to a meeting has heard them, you know, and like the cliques that are everywhere and like, oh, if you don't do this you're gonna die, and if, oh, you don't do this you're gonna die, and like,
Jails, institutions, and death.
yeah, and like there's so much truth to that to some extent.
hmm
But yeah, I
I
don't know.
I think everybody has a different recovery, just like everyone has a different, story.
Yeah,
I think we all have different stories. That's why we do both of our shows. For those who don't know, he has a podcast too. It's a fighter story is the name of it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and I was on episode 2 or 3, I think, early.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, real early on, yeah.
And so, like, we all have different stories in the beginning. So why shouldn't our recovery be different too? Why
Yeah.
shouldn't our recovery look different? It shouldn't be the same as Bill and Bob from 1930, 1935, whatever, when they wrote that book, for the big book, because NA basically, let's be real, NA hijacked AA and made it for narcotics. Let's be real. It's the same idea. The steps are almost exactly the same, except for some of the words are different, but it's the same. And, for like, at least my meetings, like I have a guy that just started coming 2 nights ago, 41 years old, and just doesn't like AA because of the terminology. He doesn't like hearing about God. And so he started, he almost overdosed on heroin on Thursday night. He made his first meeting on Friday. He did overdose. He got shot with Narcan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his first time, but he also loves speed. So he didn't do speed all weekend, but he didn't do heroin all weekend so far. He's been doing speed, and he's still come to 2 meetings. And right away he'll sit down. He's a big dude, like, and he'll be like, "Yeah, like I'm on speed, but I'm not on heroin." I'm like, all right, cool, man. Let's talk. Like, because I don't give a shit. Come back a little bit less on speed next time. Like I don't care what your recovery looks like. If you need to come on speed, like, no one's forcing you to be here. You just want to be here to hear a message. Be on speed. Just be on a little less speed each time. Try to taper,
Yeah, I feel like, the thing with this pandemic and like this whole mental health crisis that, I mean, the Simone Biles thing and just whatever everybody's talking about is mental health. To like extrapolate that to going to rehab, I don't feel like mental health was ever really put into rehab or into the program. It's like telling you a lot of things you can't do and telling you that you're supposed to do yoga and you're supposed to do it this way. And my main argument is that saying that keep coming, it works, and
keep
it's
coming
like,
back. It works if you work it.
yeah, that, or like pretty much saying that the program is the only way.
Yeah, okay, that's the bullshit.
And in my head, what I'm trying to get at is show me any proof that it has worked once. I mean, like the person did the work, but what you do inside the meetings and you read the book, I get it 100%, but there's not much difference between, going to a meeting and going to church. It's all like this governing higher power set of like higher principles to guide yourself. It's just hard for me to want to do that on a consistent basis when I'm hearing people tell me like, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to die. As the weekend beforehand, I was helping him clear his house out because his girlfriend started smoking crack again and turned his house into a brothel. You know what I mean? Like making sure we have all the hidden guns out of the house and shit. So and I know like everybody's situation is different, and every people that you meet at meetings are different. I just feel like I didn't have the opportunity to actually express myself and say what was wrong. That was the huge issue, of like me feeling like I was always like separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
And then having like a cancer diagnosis, it threw everything completely off. I just never felt like the rest of everybody. But it got me to where I am now, and I'm not saying that that's a good place. It's better than it was before.
You're not homeless.
Yeah.
I've seen you in the same home now for a couple weeks straight, so that's good.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and I'm in school. I'm trying to get my master's in dietetics. And I'm working with like some fighters because I'm going into like combat nutrition. So it's a way that I've been able to find like my old world of like that chaos and violence and combine it with an educational world to where I don't have to be in a hospital. It's just shedding all that excess trauma that I feel like the program like AA and NA, they tend to want to take too much responsibility for fixing people. Like I do therapy, every week. I've had a panic attack where I thought I was going to like crash my car. I've never had a panic attack. I've been the most bro guy on the planet, calling myself Brofessor and like the king of douches. Like I'll go to the gym and protein steroids bitches, that whole thing. And it's just like it's actually trying to figure out what was wrong with me is the thing that's kept me going, not so much going into a room having somebody else tell me what I'm doing wrong. It's a weird system that 100% works for some people, but it's not the only way of doing things. And the fact that you can't go from AA to NA to there's another recovery to where they do like 5 steps on like Buddhism, smart recovery, I think it's called.
I heard of smart recovery.
Yeah, but like having people tell you that you're not supposed to do that, I've had people tell me I'm not supposed to do shit my whole life, and those are the things that I ended up doing. You're not supposed to take drugs, so I fucking took drugs. You know what I mean? Like, why don't I? Yeah.
Yeah. I agree, because the recovery, and it does look different. I've talked to people all the time now, and so do you, and everyone's recovery will look different. You will have that person that, is indoctrinated in AA and just Mr. AA, you know what I mean, or Mrs. AA, and, they're at every meeting, they secretary a meeting at all times, they have sponsees, all that stuff. And then you have people that, are just sober on their own. And they're just trying to figure it out, and they don't care, because as long as they're not doing drugs, that's all that matters to them. You have the people that they don't want to talk about God. They don't want to talk about 12 steps because of all the stigmas, because of going the first time and maybe having a bad experience. So, because it is about the people. There's no, president of AA, you know what I mean? Like, every single, room you go into is going to be similar but different. It's the people are going to be different, but they're going to be exactly the same. Yeah. You're going to have the old timers over in the back that are going to be whispering to each other about everybody the entire time. You're going to have the newcomers hiding in the corner. You're going to have the ones that are in their first 60 days that are all about their recovery, that are up front and center because they want the attention, because they're new at it. All the people, that groups of people are the same, but the rooms are different, and you know what I mean? So that I have noticed. Yeah. The meetings are different in other places, though. Like in California, the meetings are much more, progressive and liberal. They let you talk about drugs in AA, as opposed to on Pennsylvania, you can't say pills, you have to say alcohol. Yeah. So everyone, everywhere is going to be different, I find. So I didn't like it anymore. I loved it in California. I love the support I have. I'm still friends with most of those people, but I didn't like it in Pennsylvania. So I like having my own thing now, where I take my favorite parts of a meeting, and that's what we do. And and like you said, the whole point is to help people. Like, I do these meetings not for me; it's for somebody else. But it helps me to help you.
Yeah.
You coming in here every day is saving my life too, because it gives me a reason to come in every day.
Yeah, I honestly remember doing our podcast, and there's always a cynical side, like, oh, it's never gonna work, but actually getting to know you and seeing the passion and thinking about everything, what you're doing, first off, amazing idea, it's something that I wish more people actually did. The problems that I have, I talk to a therapist now, and I had no idea that so I've been at parties to where I've slept with chicks I didn't want to sleep with. You just kind of signed up for it by being in that life, and then it just happens, and you it's a couple times where you're in and out, whatever, the next day, and then as a dude you're just oh yeah, I slept with that chick, or you may not remember, so you just don't tell anybody because she might have been a fat chick or an ugly chick, or I had trophies, of I wanted to brag about the girls I slept with.
Yep.
And so that's stuff that you're not allowed to talk about in meetings. I've woke up in places, in ditches. Why the fuck did I wake up in a ditch? It was perfectly okay for me, but you don't talk about all those things in meetings.
And you should.
Yeah.
Because there's people that need to hear those kind of things as a reminder to not want to drink again or use again. I don't know why. I know that it happens because I got, chastised all the time. Hey, we can't talk about that. We don't want to mention that. And this is me. This is my story. What do you mean I can't mention it? you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. The fucked up thing right now is like, so I'm in Ann Arbor, and I know there's a ton of meetings. The meetings that I liked going to, I don't feel welcome going to them anymore. So I was on a clinical trial drug, and it crashed my central nervous system. So now I have fibromyalgia, which I could have that forever if it's actually that diagnosis. So I'm in a constant state of pain, along with having cancer from trying to like help cure the type of cancer that I have.
Yeah.
So I've found that the only thing that works for me, mainly with anxiety, without taking like Xanax or anything, and with pain and sleep, is using marijuana. So actually using that has helped, but it's made it so now I go into the rooms and I'm either going to get a talking to about like, are you using, or like maybe just don't share today, and all of like the other questions from those old timers. It's not the new people. It's always the old timer.
It's the
And I'm
guys in
like,
the Muppets in the balcony.
yeah, and I'm like, bro, even if I was smoking crack right now, isn't this where I'm supposed to be going? And like it needs to be updated. I'm not the guy that's going to do it. It's not my thing. Like, we got people like you that genuinely care about people and want to go after the real issue, which is the mental health issue. It's the drugs and alcohol. That was never my problem.
No,
Like,
that was our solution to our mental health.
yeah,
You
like, bro,
know,
just like
yeah.
you, like I ended up in Hawaii, California, Arizona, I think a bunch of times in Ohio, the UP, Florida, Pennsylvania. Like, and those are just places that I went specific. Oh, I went to Thailand because I knew that they had a drug I hadn't tried. Like,
Which one?
so I don't remember the name of it, but it's a green powder. And when you snort it, everything turns into like this Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Almost like I felt like this giant Jigglypuff, and everybody around me was a like a Mario character. Like, everything was pixelated like Mario 1. That shit was crazy. But then also ayahuasca. So I had to try that while I was there too.
So yeah,
Uh,
while I'm in Thailand, let me just use green powder.
yeah,
Chase
but
it
I
with some
mean,
ayahuasca. What's it called? I don't fucking know, but I know what it does. It's
yeah,
like,
it,
did you ever see
yeah,
Tropic Thunder?
it's
You know,
yes,
yeah, when Danny McBride, when he was shooting off the rockets, he goes, "What's that thing called?" He goes, "I don't know what it's called. I just know the sound it makes when it lies." And he shoots off the rocket.
yeah, yeah. It's, I don't know, man. It, like, I had to be okay with like, I'm the fucked up one. Like, I'll sleep with your girlfriend, wife, fiance, your mom. It didn't matter to me. Whatever just made me feel better. Like, I'll steal all your shit. I'll beat you up, take everything. There's no like crazy, like explanation for it other than like I was fucked up in the head and I still am. And going to meetings for me kind of, it helped me be able to clear my mind and to be able to allow me to kind of like have that fundamental basis of knowing what right and wrong was,
Yeah,
or is. But on a daily basis, going there, it actually puts me in a negative mindset. It
that
it
makes
makes me
sense.
not want to go there sometimes.
Yeah. And my argument about cannabis with them was that my relationship was different than what it used to be.
Yeah,
Like I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke vape. I don't smoke flower, because I don't want the instant one. I don't want where you're instantly feeling it because for me that's triggering of like, I would snort pills because I didn't want to wait for them to hit me. You know what I
hmm,
mean? I would chug because drinking slow it takes a while to get drunk. So it's the same idea now of changing my relationship. Like I use the RSO capsules because I can take one and then I don't know when it's going to hit. I just know it's going to do its job in about an hour or two.
yeah,
It's not a thing where like I'm using it because I need to escape.
yeah,
I'm using it because I know that my brain operates better and clearer when it's working its way through my system. I know that I eat better. I know that I feel better. And I don't have to worry about, like, oh, I got to go smoke this blunt so I can feel better right now. I don't like
yeah.
doing that. I don't want to have to escape something real fast because that's my old tendencies. So it's about your relationship. And when they would
Oh
say,
yeah,
well, no, it's not what it is. I'm like, then what the fuck are we doing in AA? You
Yeah.
know, like
No, I did.
what are we doing here? We're changing our relationship with things.
Yeah. Well, like, so straight out of rehab, we were only allowed to have 1 cup of coffee a day. At the time, I never drank coffee, and then it just became the only drug available. So when I got out of rehab, I started drinking Bang or Celsius. Celsius was different when they first came out, and Bang only had like 1 or 2 flavors, and they tasted like shit. But there's 300 mgs of caffeine. I'd run through 4 or 5 of those bad boys in a day, and I never
Yeah.
understood how that was okay.
Yeah. I
Because
did
that
that with
was
the monsters. I was just telling this story the other day. We couldn't have monsters in
yeah,
rehab and in sober living. They wouldn't let us.
yep,
So we would go down to 7-Eleven and we would buy them anyway. And then we would get an empty cup, like a styrofoam cup from 7-Eleven, and pour it into it and then put the lid on top and then walk back to sober living. So it would look like we have a coffee because you could have a coffee, but it
yeah,
would really be a 24-ounce monster inside the coffee.
yeah, yeah,
Anything you had to do
yeah.
because and they knew the sober living manager that was always there during the day knew exactly what we were doing. He just didn't want to get in trouble for letting us, and he figured, you know what, fuck it, at least they're trying to hide it from me.
It's the whole instant thing. It's Monsters did a real good job of doing that. I completely understand the RSO thing and why you do that.
Yeah.
I've used the tar. The relationship is a different thing of like having to tell people, like what's your relationship with this plant? Because it changes. It's one day it could help you out with depression and anxiety. The next day it can give it to you.
Yeah.
Like for me, it takes that mask off, of like when I'm trying to tell the rest of the world, it takes that away to where I actually have to see the truth. So it forces me to be who I really am, not who I'm trying to be. Which it's helped me out in so many different ways, not just like I didn't use it for the first 3 years of being sober. Like I only used it during this past run with my clinical trial drug, and then kind of going through that and like having to fly to Minnesota with being in extreme pain, um, having to like be carried by 2 strange men to a wheelchair. Like it humbles you to where you would think that being an alcoholic and an addict and like crashing that would do it, but like when you're sober and you're clean and life still comes down, those are the things that you can't really learn in those meetings. And those are the things that I feel like it's led us to get to know each other. This podcasting and shit, like
Yeah.
I could barely walk the first time we podcasted.
Yep.
And so it's like actually being able to like get out and get a community of like-minded people. I feel like that's the basis of what the rooms become.
Well,
It's just
I'll tell you what I was saying to a meeting is pray on it. You'll be better. Just pray on it.
yeah,
That's what they tell. If you're in pain because of cancer and doing they're gonna tell you, well, you just got to pray on it, Rob.
yeah.
You pray on it, and that's it'll be better. I promise. Just keep
Yeah,
praying
well,
on it.
the thing with that is like you can pray on it and the fucking answer's right in your face.
Yeah.
Look, in some instances, praying on it just means to give you the right doctor. That doctor's still going to give you a painkiller at times. Like if you have something available, do it. But like you got to know who you are, what you're capable of, and actually attack you as a person. Be open and honest and have conversations with people. I mean, this podcasting thing has allowed me to know that like I used to feel like everybody had their shit figured out and I was the only one that was lost. Like literally before we got on, like I was doing like this TikTok video and it's like it's everybody feels that way. It's just when you do something shitty, like stealing something from your parents or whatever it is, you feel like, oh, nobody else would do that. But in reality, if you turned around and told that person what you did and be like, I'm sorry, I feel like a piece of shit, 9 out of 10 times that person has a story of where they've done the exact same thing and they can tell you about it.
Yeah.
It's just that being open and vulnerable is hard. And for me, it took being in over 100 fights before I was 16, like traveling all over the place and almost dying a couple times from cancer to even be okay saying, I need help. Like I'm not okay in the head. I need a therapist. I can't drop shit. Like turn it over to God. That's not a thing.
It's
You
not.
can't just, oh, I wrote it down here. No, you got to like talk it out.
Yeah.
Like figure it out. Like I know you're sponsored by or you were at one point.
BetterHelp. BetterHelp. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, still am.
Yeah, I looked at one of them, or I looked at them before I got a local therapist. That's more help long term.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like rehabs in the rooms, that's the hit of crack. That's that bong hit of right now.
Yep.
But that's 1 hour a day.
Yeah, that's
You know.
not that's just to keep you accountable every day. Make the coffee every day. It's accountability. It's to make sure you
Yeah.
show up. Make sure we get eyes on you to make sure okay, he's still sober for right now. So yeah, exactly. It's the other 23 hours of the day that you got to figure out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you're exact and you got to be good with yourself. And with us at our age in our mid 30s, we were brought up to like, oh no, those feelings, you got to stuff that shit down. What are you doing talking
Yeah.
about you feel weird, you feel sad? Fuck off. You can't talk about that. You're a man. Man up. Like you're supposed to go
Yeah.
fight about it. You're going to feel better. Go hit somebody and you're going to feel better.
Yeah. And
And that's
yeah,
that's
that
how
shit
and
will
it's
kill you.
yeah, and it's not even like our parents' fault either because that's how they were. It's a generational thing that, we have to like almost be like, okay, I'm not going to call my son my dad never did this to me,
Right.
but, call my son a pussy because he's crying. My dad never would do that to me, but I was also, I didn't want to cry for a while in front of anybody because I was afraid of being a pussy.
Yeah.
Because in the 90s, you were, what I say the F word, which I don't mean fuck, but that word was thrown around all the time in the 90s and
Mm-hmm.
before. And I won't even say the full word now, not even the 3-letter word of it, because I don't, it's fucked up now to think about. But that's what was thrown around back then when we were growing up. Like, you're a pussy or whatever if you're going to cry about something.
Yeah. The big
It's like,
thing for me that
it's like, what do you mean your dad left and you're crying, you fucking pussy? Man up. Like, you're going to
Yeah.
be, like, that's what we're talked to on the playground as kids.
Yeah, it's weird because like you literally bring that up made me remember like when I went to rehab, they said, like you are only as old mentally as when you started using, so that puts me right about 15 to 17, like I never matured past that mentally. And so now it's crashing, to where like I get life lessons daily that hit fucking hard,
Yeah.
because like I will still talk like that 15 to 16-year-old kid. They're like, I got a bicycle when I was a kid, like 12. That was basically a Ferrari, like if I was thirsty and like that house had a hose, I would drink out of the hose, like it was a different time. And now getting clean, 20 years later, there's a 20-year gap to where I never got to grow mentally or mature. And that's the biggest hurdle for me to have to overcome is like now I feel like I have to play constant catch up, not only in business and work, but like in school, but like relationships and
Yeah.
conversations. I'll be in a conversation and people will be like, oh, well, look at that dog. He's a little mean. He shouldn't have barked at that little dog. And I'm like, fuck that. If that was a pit bull, he'd have snapped that bitch's head off. Like that's my mentality of how I talk. But like society has changed so much to where you
Yeah.
can't talk like that.
Yeah.
And that's a very weird thing to have to go through.
It's funny because we were told that too, like we stop maturing when we start using. So that puts me in around like 12, 13, you know what I mean? Even 11 when I started
Yeah.
drinking. And so like we'll be ordering dinner and it's so stupid. I'll do it all the time. She'll be like, "Oh, like what do you want?" I say, I'm like, "All right, what do you want?" She goes, "I'm gonna get a hoagie." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a hoagie." Like, just like
Yeah.
whatever she says, I'm like, "You're that." Like
Your
it
mom.
makes yeah, exactly. Just the stupid, but it's that mentality thing of like the stupid shit that we would say back then, and I'm saying it now because like I am still growing up. I am 35, and I am, but still like my head. I had to learn how to be in a real relationship. And that's what I talked to my therapist about early on. Like she's gonna be on my show soon, and we always talked about relationships because I was like, Katie, like I don't know how to be in a relationship. Like I'm 31 years old. And the girlfriends I had, they were either using me or I was using them, and then the one real relationship I had with my best friend growing up, she committed suicide, You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I need to like learn that. So we would do worksheets and we spent a ton of time on me and relationships and how to be in a relationship because that was one thing that I realized like I don't know how to fucking be a boyfriend to somebody. You know, because like I never had that because I was always drunk or high.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
you know, it was one of the things like I feel like I need to learn that, you know. And I'm glad I did because, you know, it makes a big difference now. You know, I
Yeah.
made sure my wife has MS. So like I'm always making sure that she's good and like right now I was like I told her take the day off. Stay home. I'll go in the office. I'll take care of shit. I need you to relax because school starts tomorrow and we got a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's going in second grade. I was like, you need to relax and just like, I know you're going to do shit around the house, but just relax today. You know,
Yeah.
don't don't push yourself.
Like getting clean was one of the better things that I've ever done. It was one of the best things that I've done. It's just afterwards trying to figure shit out is hard, and being vulnerable with people and being okay not always talking. That was the big thing. And then when this last cancer crash happened, I started vlogging and like making a YouTube channel and started doing podcasting and stuff. And now I've been able to actually find like a community of people that are like-minded. And I'm finding out that you're allowed to speak the way that you want. It doesn't have to be this aggressive, over the top, look at me, but like you can speak your genuine truth and be afraid of things, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, being
Like,
vulnerable is okay. Like being
yeah,
vulnerable is good. Makes
yeah,
you
yeah,
means you're feeling things.
yeah. It's weird to have to go through that transition to find that out, because I would also use that vulnerable thing for other people and use them to get drugs. That's not being vulnerable. That's not being honest. So
Manipulate.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely trying to figure out that balance and everything. But like through podcasting and through like YouTube channels, I've met a lot of cool people, and heard other stories. And I know it gets worse, but I also know it gets better. And it kind of got down to the point of like why can't I be that one? Like you go look for a job, but why can't I be the one to give you the job? And like I know what it's like to heat myself in a trailer that's been abandoned using a stove and a propane tank, for heat in the middle of January. I know what that's like, but I don't know what it's like to live in the penthouse. So like let's try to figure that out. So
How long? Wait, so I didn't hear that. I don't remember that story. So wait, you
yeah,
were
okay. Yeah, so right before I went to rehab, probably like 6 months, there's this small town, and I didn't have a job. I couldn't stay at my mom's place. And I guess I should have said this back like right before I went to
it's
rehab.
fine. No, I like jumping around.
Yeah, it's so I had a buddy that I met in jail, and he had a trailer that somebody sold to him for $500, I think. And it was like in the middle of winter when he said that I could come live with him, and I could just go work at like this wood mill that he worked in. And it was the only place I had. I didn't have anything else. So it was my bulldog and I literally moved into this trailer to where, yeah, we had a propane tank hooked up to the back of the stove, and that's how we would cook anything. We had a generator going, so it was like pretty rare when we'd get electricity for like a microwave or TV or anything. But we worked in this wood processing plant where we'd take raw, like long pieces of lumber and sort them out. Um, but yeah, in the middle of January, there's no heat, and so I had this ottoman, probably the size of this desk, like that wide, and I would sleep on that, and it would roll out to almost as tall as I am, and I'm only 5'7", so it's pretty small. And so I had to take blankets with nails and put them up over the windows so that way at night I could turn the stove on, and at least going from like that violent shiver to like just cold. And so I would have 4 or 5 blankets, and then I would snuggle with my bulldog at night, and we would literally keep each other warm. And then I would have to do at least like 70 to 100 milligrams of oxy before I could leave, because I remember like bawling my eyes out on the car ride there because I didn't know if my dog was going to be alive when I got back. Because I would keep her in a crate and I locked her in this crate so that way she couldn't run around because that's where all of the blankets were. And I didn't want her to feel like going somewhere else and dying.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I wouldn't say that's like a rock bottom. Like, I guess it'd be a physical rock bottom, but like for me, it was like the mental thing of like actually knowing people saw me for who I was.
Yeah.
And so it's not like one of those tent poles in my story so much is like it happens. So
Where's the dog at now?
she's actually in the room right now. That was the panic attack that I had. Was she's on her last summer. And so we've been through so much that losing her is just something that it's not easy for me to deal with. But growing a relationship with her, like in the later years, it's taught me a lot about myself. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just a dog. Like if you say it's just a dog, you never had a dog and you're a heartless piece of shit. So
Yeah.
I mean, like I think like the program would call it living amends.
Yeah.
To whereas like that was a big thing I needed to do is get my dog out of because I went to rehab and left my dog in a trailer, with my mom. And like I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like it wasn't a stable situation. And then when I was finally able to like get my own place, get a car and get her out, it was like the biggest relief. I did it. And
Yeah.
then so now it's like that was the hard part is like letting her live her best life because I put her through hell.
Yeah.
But it's also this constant reminder of she's not the only one. That there's like a river of bodies, I guess you'd say, is that you leave behind, and having that on your mind it's hard to let go.
Yeah.
I guess the only way that I can do it is just by doing those living amends of not trying to do that to the people that I live with today. So I mean, I do have the program to think for those things. Um, you got to take the good stuff and leave the bad. It's
So I
just like
did.
like look at who's giving the advice. I guess is the
Yeah.
big thing is where's the advice may not be bad, but where's it coming from?
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I got to look at.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you hopping on last minute and talking. I always like talk. Me and you get along. We've gotten along since day one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I appreciate you hopping on last minute with anybody. It's always a fun conversation. Check out your podcast. Where's your podcast available?
So I actually have my podcast on every platform that I've been able to find, I think. So it's on Google, Spotify, Apple, Breaker, Beaker, whatever that one is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I upload straight to Anchor, and then I just kind of went out and found or got the RSS on every feed that I could probably put it on. Yeah, it's called The Fighter's Story. And then I have a YouTube channel for it that I'm just starting. Same thing, A Fighter's Story. So that's up, and then everything else is I am Rob Childs. I just didn't want to be creative, and I figured like it's me, like I don't really know how to do anything else, like all my nutrition stuff is under my name. Anything that I do podcast related, it's all under my name. It's who I am. So
Yeah.
like down the road, if it bites me in the ass, it is what it is. This is who I am, and like I'm tired of running from who I am. So.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
All right. Have a good day, man.
You too.
All right. See you.